Hey everybody, it's Matt. In today's video, we're going to take a look at some of the bets that are commonly made and what makes those bets win or lose. For all of the examples in this video series, we're going to assume a $5 minimum bet craps table. Now, a very popular bet on a craps table is a pass line bet. So if on a $5 minimum bet table, you take a $5 chip, typically it's red, and you put it on the pass line. In order for this bet to win on the come out roll and the come out roll only, the shooter has to roll a 7 or an 11. And from our triangle of blue chips there's 6 ways to roll a 7, and there's 2 ways to roll an 11. So there's 8 ways to win instantly on the come out roll when the shooter throws a 7 or an 11. There's also 3 other numbers that this bet will lose on instantly. So if the shooter throws a 2, a 3, or a 12, then this bet loses. So there's 1 way to roll a 2, 2 ways to roll a 3, and 1 way to roll a 12. So that's 4 ways to lose this bet instantly. So 8 ways to win, 4 ways to lose instantly, but only on the come out roll. Incidentally, this is a flat bet, so it pays even money. So when it wins, you win another red chip, another $5. So assuming that the shooter throws some other number besides a 2, 3, 7, 11, or 12, that other number is going to be one of these 6 box numbers. If the shooter throws, let's say, an 8, then this puck gets turned on and moved over to the 8 by the dealer standing right here. We are now done with the come out roll, and now we're on to the rest of the game. In order for the pass line bet to win, the shooter has to throw another 8 before he throws a 7. And again, from the little triangle of blue chips over there, you now know that there's 6 combinations of the dice that will add up to 7, and that's more combinations than any of the other numbers. So let's think about this a little bit closer. At the come out roll, there were 8 ways to win and 4 ways to lose instantly. If you didn't win or lose instantly, you threw one of these box numbers, and now the odds have flip-flopped in favor of the casino and against the player, because the casino wins your bet on the pass line when you throw a 7. And there's more combinations to roll a 7 than any other number. Another popular bet is the don't pass line. On this layout, it's marked as the don't pass bar. So if you place a minimum bet here, the don't pass bar basically works opposite of the pass line. So a minimum bet on the don't pass bar, it wins instantly on a 2 or a 3. It's a push on a 12, meaning you don't win or you lose. But it's an instant loss on a 7 or an 11. So here 7-11's an instant win. Here 7-11's an instant loss. Okay? On the pass line, after the come out roll and a point's been established and it's marked by the puck, the player can no longer remove this bet. It's a contract bet. It has to stay there. And that's because as soon as the point is established, the odds flip in favor of the casino, that the casino is going to take your bet, because there's 6 ways to roll a 7 and fewer ways to roll any other number. Specifically, there's 5 ways to roll an 8. So 6 ways to lose, 5 ways to win. So the odds are in favor of the casino. That's what makes this bet a contract bet, meaning you can't remove it once a point's established. When you play the don't pass bar and a point's been established, the odds have flip-flopped in favor of the player or the shooter, because in order for this bet to win, the shooter has to throw a 7 instead of throwing an 8. He has to throw a 7 before throwing an 8. And because there's 6 ways to roll a 7 and 5 ways to roll an 8, the odds are in favor of the shooter that he will throw a 7 before he throws an 8. So the casino will let you pick this bet up. It's not a contract bet because the odds are in the player's favor instead of the casino's favor. So another very popular bet on the craps table is an extension of the pass line and don't pass line bets. It's so let me run through an example. So on a $5 minimum table, there's our minimum bet on the pass line. Let's say the shooter throws a 9 on the come out roll. The dealer turns the puck over to on, moves it over to the 9. Now the player has the option to make an odds bet right behind his pass line bet. We'll get into figuring out how much to bet here a little bit later, but the point right now is that it's possible for the player to place an additional bet behind the pass line bet, and this bet is called an odds bet. Now, in order for this bet to win, the odds bet to win, the pass line bet has to win, and the only way the pass line bet can win is if the shooter throws a 9, in this case, before throwing a 7. Now, of course, the odds are in favor of the casino because there's more ways to throw a 7 than any other number. So that makes this pass line bet a contract bet, meaning you can't change your mind and pick up this bet. However, the odds bet is an optional bet. It's not a contract bet. So if you place an odds bet and then a couple of rolls later, you're starting to feel like the shooter really isn't going to make his point, you can pick up your odds bet. That's totally legal. What you can't do is pick up your pass line bet. And if you try to do that, the dealers will tell you, nope, you got to put that back down. And the reason this is a contract bet, again, is because the odds are with the casino that they're going to win this bet versus the player. Now, just like with the pass line, you can also place odds on the don't pass. So let's assume a minimum bet on the don't pass. Shooter throws the 9, puck turns over, dealer moves it to the 9. Now the player has the option to lay odds against the 9. And again, we'll get into the math of how much to lay on the don't pass line a little bit later. So just like with the pass line and the odds bet, in order for the lay bet to win, the don't pass bet has to win, and the only way this bet wins is if the shooter throws a 7 before throwing a 9. Now, because there's more ways to throw a 7 than any other number, including a 9, this bet the odds are in favor of the player. So this bet is not a contract bet. So the casino will allow you to pick up your odds, just like they let you pick up the odds behind the pass line bet. That's perfectly legitimate. In addition, if for some reason you decided you wanted to pick up your don't pass bet, they will let you do that because they will allow you to forfeit your opportunity to win on this bet, especially since you have the odds are in your favor. So it is possible to pick up this bet. So another little interesting thing to note about both pass line and don't pass bets is that it's the dice that's choosing the number that you're actually betting on. You don't get to choose, right? You make your line bet, the shooter rolls the dice, whatever number comes up on that pair of dice, here's a hard 6, the dealer turns the puck to on and moves it to that box number. So you had no idea that a 6 was going to be rolled. You just place your pass line bet or your don't pass line bet, and then wait for the dice to be thrown and a point number to be determined. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind when making line bets. Now, sticking with the line bets just for one more second, we've talked about how you can make a bet on the pass line or you can make a bet on the don't pass. But it is possible and perfectly legitimate to make a bet on both the pass line and don't pass line at the same time. So why would anybody do this? Well, this wins on a 7 or an 11, and this loses on a 7 or an 11. So if the shooter throws a 7 or an 11, it's a push. This loses on a 2 or a 3. This wins on a 2 or a 3. So if a 2 or a 3 is thrown, again, it's a push. Now the difference in the two lines is that this loses on a 12, and this is a push on a 12. So when betting both lines like this, the only bet that's at risk is this pass line bet, and only if the shooter throws a 12. Now again, why would anybody bet like this? Well, they might bet like this because they want to avoid the risk of an instant loss, but at the same time, they want to be able to take advantage of either making an odds bet once a point's been established, or maybe they want to make a lay bet if a different point is established. So this is where this triangle of purple chips, blue chips comes into place. There's only 3 ways to roll a 4, right? A 1 and a 3 and a 1, and 2 2s, or also known as a hard 4. So there's 3 ways to roll a 4, but there's 6 ways to roll a 7. So when the point is a 4 and the player has both a pass and a don't pass line bet, once the 4 is established as the point, the player might say, well, there's twice as many ways to win this bet than to lose it, so I'm going to go ahead and lay odds against the 4. So that's another little strategy that people will sometimes keep in mind. And you can only work this strategy if you play both the pass and the don't pass line at the same time. Now, the only time you are absolutely required to make a pass line bet is if you're throwing the dice. If you're not throwing the dice, then you do not need to make a line bet. You can skip that. So let's just assume that we are not throwing the dice, and so we're not going to make a line bet. And we're going to wait until the shooter throws the dice. Let's say he throws a 6, and the dealer turns the puck on and marks the 6 as the point. Now, the point number really doesn't matter to us because we don't have a line bet. So what we could do, and this is another very popular bet, is we could pick any one of these 6 numbers or any combination of those 6 numbers and place a bet specifically on that number. So let's say we wanted to place a bet on the 6. On a $5 minimum table, to place a bet on the 6 costs $6. Likewise, if you wanted to place a bet on the 8, it would also be $6. So what if we did both? What if we placed a bet on both the 6 and the 8? Again, referring to our blue chips over here, there's 6 ways to roll a 7, so if a 7 is rolled, we lose both of these bets. However, there's 5 ways to roll a 6, and there's 5 ways to roll an 8. So 5 and 5 is 10. So there's actually 10 combinations where one of these bets will win. So 5 for this bet and 5 for this bet. So there's 10 ways to win, and there's 6 ways to lose. So the odds are kind of in the player's favor. So this is a very popular bet. placing the 6 and the 8 without playing either one of either the pass line or the don't pass line. Another very popular bet is playing these 4 numbers referred to as the inside numbers all at the same time. So again, let's consider the scenario where we don't want to place a line bet. We're going to wait for the shooter to throw the dice and establish a point. Let's say this time he throws an 8. The dealer turns the puck over to on, moves it to the 8 to mark that as the point, and then the player gives $6 each to the dealer to place bet on the 6 and the 8, and we pay $5 each to place a bet on the 5 and the 9. Okay, so if we add up the number of combinations that would make any of these bets win, right, we got 4 ways to roll a 5, and we have 4 ways to roll a 9, so that's 8. And we have 5 ways to roll a 6 and 5 ways to roll an 8, so that's 10. So we have 18 different ways to roll a number, a combination, a dice combination that will make one of these bets win. And there's 36 total combinations, so 18 is half of that. So there's 18 roll combinations that will win, and there's only 6 ways to roll a 7, which will lose all 4 of these bets. So many people, many players consider this a good bet. It's called playing the inside numbers. Now, likewise, some people prefer to play the outside numbers. So they'll play like that. So in order for these bets to win, now the shooter has to throw a 4, a 5, a 9, or a 10 before throwing a 7. So we already know that there's 4 ways to roll the 5 and 4 ways to roll a 9. There's 3 ways to roll a 4 and 3 ways to roll a 10. So we've got 4, well, we got 3 and 4, so that's 7 combinations, plus another 7 combinations, so there's 14 combinations to win and 6 combinations to lose. So oftentimes people will play these outside numbers. Now, each one of these place bets pays off a little differently. And incidentally, they don't pay as well as the odds bet behind the pass line or the laid bet on the don't pass line. And again, that's why people play those odds bets. But remember that the numbers that get associated with either the pass line or the don't pass, the point number, the player has no control over. It's whatever the shooter throws. The place bets, the player can choose whatever number he wants to bet on. These are also not contract bets, so the player is able to take these bets down at any time. So some players, what they'll do is they'll leave their place bets up for a certain number of rolls. Maybe they'll choose 3 rolls because there's 6 ways to roll a 7, and the player is hoping, hoping that he doesn't throw a 7 in the first 3 rolls after establishing a point. Okay, of course, that's not a guarantee. Any of these numbers can appear at any time, but sometimes that's one of the strategies that someone might try at the craps table. Now, if a 6 or an 8 is rolled before a 7, then the player is actually paid $7 for every $6 bet. And you can bet in multiples of 6. So 6, 12, 18, 24, and so on. So the 6 and the 8 pay $7 for every $6 bet. The 5 and the 9 pay $7 for every $5 bet. And the 4 and the 10 actually pays $9 for every $5 bet. And again, you can bet increments of $5 here, 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 and here. And that's often what people will do, is that they'll start off with some initial bets, if they get lucky and hit, and the shooter throws some of those numbers and they're starting to win some chips, they may choose to add to their bets once they've won a little bit of the house money. So the 4 and the 10 pay more than the 5, the 6, the 8, or the 9 because there's a fewer number of combinations that add up to a 4. There's only 3 ways to roll a 4 and 3 ways to roll a 10. So it pays better if you hit the number that's harder to hit. Another popular bet is the field bet. On a $5 minimum table, the minimum bet in the field is $5. You could bet 6, 7, 8, 9, any number at or above the minimum bet. And most of these, the field bet is an even money bet, except on this particular layout, a 2 and a 12 pays double. So the numbers that are covered in the field are 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So if the shooter throws a 3, 4, 9, 10, or an 11, then you win even money. If the shooter happens to throw a 2 or a 12, this layout says that it pays double. Different casinos have slightly different layouts in this area. So the 2 might pay double, but the 12 might pay triple, for example. So that's one of the areas that you need to look at a little bit more closely when visiting a casino. Okay, so if we add up the number of dice combinations to roll these numbers, we get 16. So there's 16 dice combinations that can win this bet. The numbers that will lose this bet are the 5, the 6, the 8, and of course the 7. And there's 20 ways to roll those 4 numbers. So there's 16 ways to win and 20 ways to lose. And the other kicker with this field bet is that it's a 1-roll bet only. So the player puts the bet in the field area, the shooter rolls the dice, and then the bet either wins or it loses, and that's it. If it wins, here's the shooter threw a 2, so we win double. The dealer will put 2 chips in front of you. You're expected to pick your chips up. If you leave them there, the dealer assumes you want to play them. Of course, you could stack them. You could maybe just double your bet and keep one of the chips. It's totally up to you. Or you can remove the entire bet. It's totally up to you. If one of these other numbers is rolled, then it's an even bet. So you get paid even money. If a 5, 6, 8, or a 7 is rolled, 5, 6, 7, or 8, then you lose this bet and the casino takes your chip. So I hope you're starting to get the idea here that there's lots of different bets you can make on the table. There's lots of different numbers. They range from 2 to 12, and you can basically bet on any of those numbers at any time. And if you happen to have the right number, if you happen to have a bet on the right number at the right time, then you win. So you might be thinking, well, is there a way to bet on all the numbers? Well, actually there is. You can bet $5 on the 5, $6 on the 6 and 8, and then a minimum bet, a $5 bet in the field. And if you look carefully at this, you've got the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 8, the 9, the 10, 11, and 12 covered with those 4 bets. So the only way to lose these bets is if the 7 is rolled. So you're starting to get the idea that the 7 is typically the bad number, the number you don't want to see the shooter roll. The only exception. So we talked about a lot of different bets. I want to just go over a couple of others and then I'll stop, I promise. Let's go back to, we're going to talk about the come bets and the don't come bets now. And these are basically, they operate just like the pass line and don't pass. So a come bet works just like the pass line bet, after the come out roll, and the don't come bet works just like the don't pass bet after the come out roll. So we've talked about a lot of different kinds of bets so far. For people that bet the pass line with or without odds, come bets with or without odds, or place bets, once all those bets are up on the layout, a 7 can wipe them all out with just one single roll. Conversely, if you're a don't player and you have bets on the don't pass line, maybe some laid odds, maybe some don't come bets with some additional laid odds, a 7, once all your bets are up there, makes all of your bets instant winners. So that's a good number for the don't player and a bad number for the do player. In the next video, I'm going to run through some sample games using some of the betting strategies shown in this video. I'll show you what the betting amounts are, I'll show you what the payoffs are, but most importantly, I'll show you how each one of those strategies can be made to either win or lose.